Here's 10 reasons the Richat structure in Mauritania Africa is definitely Atlantis. Number 10! Plato said Atlantis' destruction was around 11,600 years ago. Coincidentally, the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe also happened around the same time. For those who don't know, here's what that is.
There was a massive change in global temperatures, sea levels fluctuated, a massive extinction event of 75% of mammals in North America occurred. There's even evidence of global fires said to have been larger than the ones that occurred during the extinction event that killed off the dinosaurs, scorching at least 10% of the Earth's land surface. The evidence for this event is scientifically overwhelming and is likely related to a fragmented comet. And the point is that it's very likely that this event is related in some way to the destruction of Atlantis.
He just said mass extinction of 75% of the mammals in North America and global fires bigger than the ones that killed the dinosaur? I don't care how advanced the Atlanteans were, man. They definitely would have got wiped out from that. Number 9. Number 9, we got the structures and the measurements. Here's what Plato had to say describing Atlantis. He said there were alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, encircling one another, and there were 2 of land and 3 of water. Now, weirdly enough, this is basically describing the Richat structure. Now, if you look, there's 2 rings with 1 in the center. Plato said there's 2 rings of land and 3 of water. Of course, that's not including the center island. But look at this picture. Whoever did this, they got it wrong. The middle would be a center island as well, with only 2 other sets of rings. But they pieced it together pretty well and show what it could look like. Animated version of what it could look like. It's more accurate. Now look at the Richat structure. Oh yeah, and when you measure the Richat structure, it's 23.5 kilometers, which is the exact same length that Plato described it. Number 8. The unique formation and shape of this structure has raised a lot of questions as to its origin and if it's even related to Atlantis. First, it was thought to be a meteor impact site. That was ruled out, however, due to no evidence of an impact whatsoever. In fact, scientists have never seen anything like this in the world. It would make sense that if it was a natural formation and back then there was water inside of these rings, that these Atlanteans would definitely have built on it. If you want to see all this broken down, go check out Bright Insight's video, The Lost City of Atlantis, Hidden in Plain Sight. Another thing Plato said was the mountains of the island of Atlantis was celebrated for their number and size and beauty. The surrounding mountains of the city flowed with rivers also. Oh, would you look at the Richat structure? There's huge mountains to the north. He also said this part of the island looked towards the south and sheltered from the north, which is exactly what we see here. He also said the mountains had rivers. He said it opened at the sea to the south, and that's what we see. Number 7. The large flat terrain, as well as the Sahara being completely filled with lush greenery and vegetation previously. Now this is what Plato said after the destruction of Atlantis. Atlantis is part of the Atlantic, which is now no longer accessible by ship. Atlantis, when sunk by the earthquake, became an impassable barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any part of the ocean. It basically became landlocked. It's not hard to see that a lot of sand or mud could have pushed this all onto here, adding an extra shit ton of desert. Don't forget Plato said the country immediately surrounding the city of Atlantis was a level plain, surrounded by mountain, which descended towards the sea. Now wait, he also said the plain was smooth and even, which is exactly what we see right here. Then he said mountains that descended towards the sea would have been this way towards the south. Also turns out that Sahara was filled with massive rivers and lakes, with one being 42,000 square feet. Then one of the world's most dramatic climate shifts ever basically drained the Sahara. That's insane. Part 6. Now we're going to talk about how there should be some artifacts or something resembling that a civilization had once lived here, or something else that correlates to what Plato said about it. Alright, so in quote, Plato said the stone in which they quarried was white, another black, and a third red. The main city was constructed with red, black, and white rocks. This region just so happens to have endless amounts of loose rock which happen to match those colors, particularly black and red. Also, go check out this documentary, Visiting Atlantis, if you want to learn more about this. This is basically where most of the info came from. Now, Plato also said there were a great number of elephants on the island, and there's been many skeletal remains of elephants found at or near the Richat. They're even depicted on ancient rock art as well. He also said there was an abundance of metal, copper, and gold. Look at Mauritania's main exports. And there's hella artifacts that have been found in and around the Richat. Archaeologists don't even know what civilization they're from. Here's more that they found. Like, bro, that looks like a cannonball, come on. There's also ancient whale bones found in Mauritania. This guy lives there and he says he's seen fish bones. Part 5. Potential structures inside of the Richat structure, as well as a comparison to the nearest city structures. On Bright Insight's video, someone commented a bunch of coordinates with a bunch of structures inside the Richat structure. Some of those were these. And this one caught my attention. Look at that. That is weird. That is really weird. So I went to Google Earth myself and I found this. It says the Temple of Atlas. Remember this. I'm foreshadowing for the next part. All right, check this out. Here's the Richat, and here is Kadain. Pretty damn close. Zoom into Kadain right there. Now look at that. Let's zoom in more. Now, why do their structures look like that? I need to see what this looks like from the ground. Like, look at this. Here's some photos of it. Shout out to this dude. So this reminds me of Luke's house from A New Hope, and they actually filmed it in North Africa. Even this. Number 4, the legend of Atlantis as well as Alice. The legend of Atlantis states that it was an empire made up of 10 kingdoms and that the island of Atlantis was its capital. So Poseidon gave birth to 10 sets of twins, and each of those twins went to rule one of those kingdoms. So allegedly Poseidon had 5 sets of twins, and who wants to guess where the largest birth rate of twins is per capita? It's Nigeria. That's very interesting, considering its geographical proximity to Mauritania. Plato stated that the king of the capital of Atlantis was Atlas, who was the firstborn son of Poseidon, which we previously discussed. And guess what? The legendary king of Mauritania was named Atlas as well. What a coincidence. So the Maori people, who are now referred to as the Berber people, live in the Atlas Mountains, which are located in northwest Africa. So the Atlas Mountains, where the Berber people basically live now, is right up here. I'm running out of time, but this connects to the next part, so let's go. Number 3, Herodotus' map and its connection to the Maori people, or the Berber people. So in the last one, we were talking about the Berber people, how they live here in the Atlas Mountains, which are around this area. And I just want you to take a look at this real quick. Just take all this in. The Richat structure is right here. Take that in mind as well. Let me introduce Herodotus. He was alive right after Plato and Solon. He was also known as the father of history. The Herodotus is known for the most accurate mapping of the known inhabited world at the time of 450 BC. I don't know if you can see that, but it says Atlanta. We'll go to a different map. Look at this. Atlantis. Literally, it says Atlantis. What? Now check this out. Right here and right here. Now, if a flood were to have wiped out Atlantis, it would make sense that it would have moved from where it originally was. That also connects to how the Berber people live in the Atlas Mountains. It would have put the Richat structure around this area around that time. Too many coincidences. Is number 2, flood maps as well as the flood that wiped out Atlantis. So the only evidence against the Richat structure being Atlantis is that its sea level is above 1,300 feet. Now direct your attention to this comment left on Bright Insight's video, and when you take these calculations and when you apply them into flood maps, so this is presumably what the area would have looked like if you account for the difference in sea level and elevation 11,000 years ago. Well, would you look at that? Oh my god. If anyone tries to tell me it's not Atlantis, you're wrong. And I mean, we already talked about this. You do see striations in land from west to east towards the ocean. It really just looks like a massive wave or a steady flow of water just completely altered the terrain. Like I said, it's not hard to see that a lot of sand or mud could have been pushed into Africa during this catastrophic event. And we can clearly see that the Richat is heavily eroded as well. And that would also point to a flood. Next, we're going to talk more about the sea level as well as the spring water. Number 1, the spring water coincidence. So before this, we were talking about how the sea level proves that it's not Atlantis. Well, at one point, it would have looked like exactly like Atlantis according to the sea level. And it's clearly heavily eroded, either from the flood or from the rings previously being filled with water. Alright, now we're on to the spring water stuff. All water wells in and around the Richat structure are exclusively salt water, all the way down to 200 meters below the surface. Beyond that 200 meters, fresh water is found. But besides that, the only place where it's not found below the 200 meters is in the center island of the Richat structure. They dug a well at the center island of the Richat and found fresh water flows from it. It's 200 plus miles in and over 1,300 feet in elevation. Now this is significant when you consider Plato saying the god Poseidon found no difficulty in making special arrangements for the center island, bringing up 2 springs of water from the center island. So I already made a video about 10 reasons why the Richat structure in Mauritania Africa is definitely Atlantis. It was more than 10 reasons, but yeah. I just found a video of a guy who went to the Richat structure in Mauritania on foot, and he filmed it. You won't believe what this guy found. It basically confirms that the Richat structure is Atlantis.
We are at the mouth of the Richat structure, and it's beautiful. I mean, to be honest, I'm completely blown away by the fact that at the mouth of the Richat structure, there's this village of Udon, and they are still building their structures the exact way that Plato described. They're building simple structures with red, white, and black stones, sometimes arranging them and burying them to be pleasing to the eye. I mean, this is exactly what he described, and this is exactly what the people at the mouth of the Richat structure are still doing. I mean, we have clear anthropological evidence at this point of these construction techniques, the exact same that you described.
Here's some that were in his video. Now check out the ones that I put in mine. So here's Odon. And here's some of the structures that I found there from Google Earth. I mean, like, come on. It's Atlantis. Here's a continuation of the Richat structure being Atlantis, part 2. So in this guy's video, he went to Mauritania, and he went to the Richat structure on foot. He also went to this village, which is close to the Richat structure at the mouth. Here's some more of the structures that he saw in the village besides this one. Remembering what Plato said about the structures, the stone that was used in the work was white, another black, and a third red. Some of their buildings were simple, but in others they put together different stones varying in the color to please the eye.
So here we are approaching the town of Udon at the mouth of the Richat structure, and you can see their simple construction techniques with white, black, and red stone. And here we are driving past one of the buildings in the town, also a simple structure built with white, black, and red stone. We are looking at one of the buildings where they've arranged all of the white stone in a way that's particularly pleasing to the eye.
I'm actually jealous he went there. I kind of want to go see this stuff. Look at this structure he found in the center of the Richat.
We're at the center of the Richat structure, and if you believe that this is Atlantis, then this would be where the temple to Poseidon was constructed. And what's really cool is you can see behind me one of the simple structures that they've built out of red, black, and white stone. There's actually a few of these.
Stop. So I posted a series talking about how the Richat structure, or the Eye of Africa in Mauritania Africa, is definitely 150% Atlantis. If you don't believe it, you literally have seen nothing. There is so much evidence proving this is true, it's unreal. There's more proving that this is Atlantis than there is for Hollow Earth. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, back in that series, I went inside the Richat structure on Google Earth and I found a bunch of structures in the center. I talked about this structure called the Temple de Atlas. Now, we know Poseidon had 5 sets of twins to rule each of those 10 kingdoms, and we know Poseidon's first son was named Atlas, who went to rule Atlantis, and ironically, the first king of Mauritania was named Atlas as well. The interesting part that confirms this for me is when I posted this video, it was called the Temple de Atlas. Oh, and now it says the unexplored structure. The unexplored structure, the Temple de Atlas means Temple of Atlas in French. Then I swapped some shit again because you have to change it from Arabic back to English to Arabic again to get it to say Temple of Atlas for some reason. Here's where it is. I don't know. Kind of sus. What do you... Alright, let's continue on with talking about Atlantis. So supposedly, prime Atlantis, there was an imperialistic war on the remainder of Asia and Europe. After Atlantis attacked and failed, supposedly, that's when the supposed earthquakes and floods basically sent Atlantis to the ground, or underground, or under the water, whatever. Plato said when Atlantis was sunk by the earthquake, it became an impassable barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any part of the ocean. Now look at the Eye of Africa from Google Earth. There's 250 plus miles in between the eye and the ocean. Meaning there's an impassable barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any part of the ocean. Now who remembers Herodotus, the supposed father of history? Around 450 BC, he made a map of the known inhabited land around that time. In northwest Africa, you see Atlantis. Now obviously the Richat structure is more south, but if a giant cataclysm such as an earthquake or a giant flood came through, definitely would have moved it. Now my biggest problem with this is Atlantis is said to be somewhere in the ocean. What if they're saying that to throw us off and it's right in our face? I know the Eye of Africa is Atlantis.